Hello, I'm Cindy Bates from Wise County, and I'm here to talk with our paraprofessionals about some ACE training that we had at the beginning of the school year. ACE came down to Wise County and did some live training for our paraprofessionals, and we've been real pleased with that, and they're going to talk to you about it some today. Shawnee, what is the one thing that you walked away with from the training that has been really helpful to you in your work with students with autism and other disabilities?
The thing that I took away from that training was the visual scheduling, knowing how to use it more effectively. We've always used the visual scheduling, but now where it's broken down into smaller pieces, the children understand it better. They are more independent. They have fewer vocal prompts. I have seen a major change in behavior issues. It took a while to implement, but other than that, it's worked wonderfully for us.
Now, I know that you all have always used visuals in your classroom, but what I'm wondering is, since you've had the training and you spent some time really learning the purpose of the visuals and how that they benefit students, do you feel like having that in-depth understanding of the visuals has helped you when you're implementing them with students?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It has helped immensely. They know what to expect. It's not something just thrown at them, here's a piece of paper, this is what we want you to do. They can look at their schedule and they know, so they're not beating their head, they're not throwing the tantrums. They know what to expect, and that helps a lot.
Monica, tell me something that you felt that you learned at the paraprofessional training that was a new skill.
Well, you know, we've always worked with task analysis, but the one thing that I didn't realize is that you could actually take one task and break it down into even smaller tasks. One of the things that we worked with at the workshop when we did our hands-on was a simple task as hanging up a jacket. You know, one of the things that we do, we would give them a morning routine, and they would say, put your books away, hang up your jacket, but we didn't always realize that that one step would take 2 or 3 steps. So I thought that was interesting that we could break one thing as simple as hanging up a jacket and make that 3 steps.
Sherry, what is the one thing that you walked away with from the training that has been the most helpful for you in supporting students with autism?
Well, I use so many of these things every day. We use social narratives. We use the 5-point scale. We use the visual aids, the role play, and these appear to be really working for these children, and he's making progress.
We did do quite a bit of hands-on activities around prompting and task analysis and other strategies. How did this help you specifically?
Well, it just gave me a deeper understanding, and it helped me learn some new technique to use with my student, and it was very helpful. It was very helpful. I learned to use the role play and helping understand emotions, the emotion chart. Well, I call it the emotion chart. It's a 5-point chart. And we use that and to make sure organizational areas the way it needs to be. A lot of great information, and it was presented very well. I like the presentation of it. It was very well.
Amanda, tell me something that you learned at the training that's a new skill for you.
A new skill that I probably learned was being able to do a task analysis, where I've actually done some, but they explained that it needs to be more steps and kind of to the point.
Amanda, what is the one thing that you walked away from the training with that has been the most beneficial to you in supporting students with autism?
The most beneficial thing that I walked away with would be learning the functions and the severity of them, of the behavior. That way, knowing when to intervene and when not to.
Alma, tell me something that you learned at the paraprofessional training we had at the beginning of the school year.
One of the things that I found very informative was that even though they are in a class, an autism group, that each one has their own individuality. So even though they're in that class, you can't treat them as a group. They still have to be treated and seen with their abilities and disabilities individually.
Any other strategies or new things that you learned?
One of the things that I did learn and that we went over was how to treat them differently. Something that may work for one doesn't work for another, so you constantly have to be in mind of it's not a one-size-fits-all category. It takes learning what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and then building on those depending on the child and depending on the behavior.
Jackie, tell me something that you learned that was a new skill.
What we've learned at the beginning of the year was the chart sticker, using a chart that you could add 4 stickers to. In reading, if they had a worksheet, we could say to the student, if you work and do your warm up, I'll reward you with this sticker, and then if you get 4 stickers and complete all your work today, you'll get iPad time of 10 minutes, maybe 15. And I guess the second thing would be the visual schedule that we could use, showing the student that, we had to transition from one thing to the other. We're doing reading now, and then in 15 minutes we're going to the restroom, they're going to come back, and then we're going to do math. We're going to do a warm-up on math, and the fading out, as far as, you can read the directions to the student, and then maybe just, if you need any help, give them that confidence that they need, and I'll be right over here if you need anything, and just kind of, step back. And then shadowing and not talking. So a lot of times, I would prompt and just kind of tap them on the arm and say, look at your teacher. So, and that has really helped me. I have done that, and it's worked. Now, hopefully it'll continue.
Tammy, tell me something that you learned that was a new skill for you at the training.
Well, basically I learned how to make the picture schedule. I had not had a chance to do that before with any of the students that I'd worked with, and so it kind of gave me an insight on children that could not go with the regular written schedule.
Could you share about some of the hands-on activities that you did during the training?
Well, one of the really helpful hands-on was that we had our partners, we paired up, and our partner had a problem happen on the bus. So we had a mock situation where your partner, you get them off the bus, bring them in, and you have to figure out what happened that morning. And they have no vocal skills. They could only say 1 or 2 lines, and so it was an interesting situation because you had to figure out what was going on with them. And it kind of opened my eyes to dealing with somebody that has limited or no vocal skills.
What is the one thing that you walked away with from that training that has benefited you the most?
The thing that I think I did not realize and that has helped me the most is realizing that someone with autism does not have the social skills that necessarily others may. They may have social skills, but they may not. And interacting with their peers, you really have to take that into consideration, and I did not realize how hard it was for them to interact, and I guess going the extra mile, because some of them may not be able to vocalize what's going on in their life at that moment, and you need to really take that into account when dealing with them.